Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Invest in the West, presented by Amplitude Ventures. We are about to start our first pitch session of the day. While there will not be a live Q&A segment to this session, we do have the Q&A and chat feature activated, and you can ask questions through the Q&A, which our innovators and entrepreneurs will answer following their presentation. The companies represented in this session are all SMEs who have participated in the Life Sciences BC Investor Readiness Program. To talk more about that subject and to introduce each presenter, I'd like to welcome William Burrows, Life Sciences BC's Director of Business Programs and Operations, who has led the SMEs through the IRP program. William, over to you.
Thank you, Wendy. Hello, everybody. And as Wendy said, welcome to Invest in the West, presented by Amplitude Ventures. My name is William Burrows, and as Wendy mentioned, I'm responsible for business operations and programs at Life Sciences BC. In its second year, LSBC is running the annual Investor Readiness Program, commonly referred to as the IRP, which is made possible with the support of NRC IRAP. And it's a privilege today to have this year's companies pitching to you at this inaugural event, Invest in the West, presented by Amplitude Ventures. The IRP pairs early stage companies with EIR mentors for 6 months of coaching, which is complemented by education sessions, peer-to-peer feedback discussions, conferencing and networking opportunities, and then the pitch presentations. The application call for the IRP happens each June, and the program runs from October to March. Please watch LSBC's social media newsletter for the 2023 invite. As mentioned, the program culminates with the pitch presentations that each company receives feedback for from the audience. Those pitch presentations, which are part of the IRP's graduation requirement, are before you now. At today's event, there will be 2 sessions of IRP pitches. The first session of IRP pitches represent companies from the Diagnostics, Digital Health, and Therapeutics subsectors. Without further ado, let's kick off this year's pitches. First up, we have Apricel. Apricel Biotechnology is a company at the forefront of personalized oncology. Their platform allows oncologists to recreate a cancer patient's tumor ex vivo, enabling the pre-testing of various chemo and immunotherapeutic drugs to determine the optimal treatment path for that particular patient. Presenting for Apricel is Matt Sutherland. Sorry, Matt. Matt brings a business and entrepreneurship background to the Apricel team. He attended the University of Victoria, where he obtained a Bachelor of Commerce with specialization in entrepreneurship and finance. Matt has previous experience working in business development roles for startups in the areas of health tech and sustainability. It was during these experiences that he became interested in the commercialization of novel technologies with a particular emphasis on biotechnology. Over to you, Matt.
Thank you, William, for that introduction. So I'll just share my screen here. Here we go. All right. So yeah, my name is Matt, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about cancer. So everyone knows that cancer is a huge problem, but one of the biggest problems is that the current treatment selection process involves far too much guesswork, and this creates a lot of inefficiencies. So right now, DNA sequencing matches only about 1 in 10 patients. And of the small group who are matched, only 15 to 20% actually achieve durable results. So really, only patients are benefiting from personalization in this system. This creates a lot of problems. On the one hand, patients may unnecessarily endure the side effects and expenses associated with a lot of these treatments. And on the other hand, ineffective treatment obviously lowers a patient's chances of achieving a positive outcome. At Apricel, we are solving this problem by simulating how a patient will respond to a given drug before it's actually given. We do this by creating patient-derived tumor organoids. These are essentially mini tumors created directly from tissue taken from patient biopsies. After the tumor organoids have been created, we can test drugs and drug combinations, see what works. And then we use a computer model to optimize the dosing for that particular patient. So the market is quite large. There are nearly 2 million people diagnosed with solid tumors in North America every year. And the precision cancer diagnostic test market is valued at about 4.1 billion annually and expected to register 5% growth rate over the next 5 years. So I think that we're going to capture this whole market, of course, but I think the growth rate in particular is really indicative of a growing trend towards personalized medicine, and we definitely intend on capturing a chunk of that trend. So here are the 2 types of cancers that we're going to be targeting before expanding to other types of solid tumors. There's a lot I could say about these cancers. They're extremely common and quite deadly, but the thing I want to draw attention to is the drugs. So these are huge numbers, and this many options, choosing the optimal is going to be nearly impossible for any given patient, which is exactly where our technology fits in perfectly. So we have a slightly different path to commercialization than your typical medical device or life science company. Over the next years, we're going to be working with oncologists and organizations like Cancer to validate our technology in the clinic. But our platform actually has strong applications in basic research and drug development as well. This means during the early phases, we can actually sell the technology to research organizations like universities and CROs in order to generate intermediate cash flows that can then be funneled back into the business. Now, our long-term model is quite different. After regulatory approval, we want to license companies like Life Labs and Labcorp. This way, we can leverage the existing infrastructure and, more importantly, the brand awareness that these companies have already developed. So here's a breakdown of our top 5 competitors in the space. There's a lot of information here, but the most important thing to note is that there are no entrenched competitors in this area. What you see instead is a lot of startups from different. So this slide sums up our biggest advantages over both our direct and indirect competitors. And I'd like to bring your attention to the point at the top left. Some of the main benefits of our platform is that you don't need to have a comprehensive understanding of all the factors that affect patient response in order to predict it. It's really quite simple that way. And then also draw your attention to the bottom left. So because this technology to existing laboratory companies like Life Labs, a way that minimizes workflow disruptions, allowing it to be easily integrated with existing operations. And yeah, really important working with massive companies as Labcorp and Life Labs. Here's an overview of our small. Right now, my co-founder Amir and I are the only full-time employees, and then we've recruited Dr. Akbari and Dr. Loom as scientific advisors as well. Here's a breakdown of the various milestones that we have planned over the next 5 years. Of course, the timeline of these will be pretty variable, especially regarding our clinical trials, but the milestones themselves serve as good checks. So as I mentioned earlier, we're still pretty early stage compared to a lot of the other companies you're about to hear from today. Because of this, we're not actually asking for any. Instead, if you were industry or IP or clinical trial, or if you just want to learn more about the project, please reach out because we would love to talk to you. And yeah, with that, thank you all for listening, and thank you to the organizers of the event. I look forward to meeting you all.
Thank you, Matt. Our next pitch is for Oryx Surgical. ORX Surgical is a platform for hospital buyers and medtech suppliers that speeds up payment for medtech and stops revenue leakage in operating rooms. For provider-based organizations, ORX uses real-time supply chain data from the operating room to predict procedures and major complications during surgery that identify missing reimbursement opportunities. For medtech organizations, ORX fixes a systemic supply chain issue with the implantable medical device industry, the non-standard purchase order process. ORX is currently negotiating reselling relationships with market-leading HIT vendors in revenue integrity automation and ambulatory surgery solutions that represent a third of all healthcare facilities in the US. ORX platform is poised for rapid growth to solve major systemic issues for the implantable medical device industry. Presenting for ORX Surgical is Peter Sonde. Peter Sonde is the CEO and founder of ORX Surgical. Just before ORX, Peter's formed, structured, and oversaw a $20 million corporate joint development partnership between a mixture of public and private companies. For the project, he successfully raised $10 million of capital to commercialize digital health technologies using machine learning and AI technologies. He has over a decade of experience building and shipping digital health companies and structuring large-scale technology partnerships between startups and large corporations. Over to you, Peter.
Thanks, William. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to start by telling you a story. And the moral of that story is go with your gut. So it's about a 5-hospital health system in New York that had a significant amount of outpatient surgical volume. And they had a hunch. And that hunch was that the implantable medical devices that were being documented in the EHR by their clinicians were being missed on the patient claims, and a significant amount of patient revenue was being missed because of this. So on that hunch, they hired a bunch of fancy people, and those fancy people talked to a lot of technical people, their EHR analysts, their ERP analysts, their patient accounting system analysts. And then from there, they identified that for one supply item to go from their EHR system to their ERP system to their patient accounting system, that one supply item needed 10 data fields. And if one of those data fields was missing, just one, the entire supply would be dropped between systems and it would never end up on the patient bill. And so they were missing revenue just from bad data, you know? And when they ran the numbers, they actually realized they were missing $32 million in revenue every 6 months because of bad data, which is insane. And the more insane thing I find, or the thing that's like nuts, is that no one really knew this. They'd set up the automations, they'd set the automations correctly, but they didn't set up good data stewardship practices with that vendor data. And so from that, ORX is really born. We help hospitals with bad data capture reimbursement by syncing, enriching, and maintaining their vendor supply data. So you can really think of ORX as a way of harmonizing data between these different systems. And why us? What's amazing about us? It's the way our platform syncs, enriches, and maintains vendor supply data. And we do that through a proprietary library of over 2 million devices, which we're building right now. And another way that we're different is the way that we engage with the vendor community. And the reason I got to tell you, in order to explain that a bit, I got to tell you about a type of inventory, which is called trunk stock. And so literally, this is a picture of a medical device rep pulling implants out of their trunk, putting it on a dolly, and wheeling that dolly into the OR for them to be used. Now, this process really happens between the rep and the surgeon, and the facility finds out about what's being used kind of after the fact. And what happens is at the end of that period, at the end of that surgery, the rep pulls off the stickers from the boxes of those implantable medical devices, puts them on a sticker sheet, gives them to the clinician. Unbeknownst to the clinician, they're entering that information to the EHR, and that information that they're entering will stay in the EHR, but it's not going to the patient bill. Unfortunately, the clinician doesn't really care because it's not their job. And then that piece of paper goes to the material management team, where they're feverishly trying to cut purchase orders and don't really have time to let anyone know that new items have been added besides the department that they're in. So again, revenue integrity never finds out about this. No one knows that these new items were used, and so the information isn't updated. And so it's an incredibly difficult to maintain process where new items are being entered in and brought into the OR, and the data is not being updated between the vendors and the hospital buyers. And so that's where ORX really comes in. First things first, we digitize the sticker sheet process. Now, when a rep is going to use new items or use existing items, they go into ORX, they find the case that they're going to use, they quickly open the camera, they scan the boxes, they add the implantable medical devices. We merge our data with their data. We ask them to enter in any missing information that they need. They add the implant, they build the rest of the case, and then they send it off to the facility. From there, everyone at the facility now knows. Everyone gets an email when new products are being used. From there, the different teams can go into the systems. They can select the items, the new items that are being introduced. They can modify, change any information. We've already populated all the data, so most of the time they just have to accept it and approve it. And then from there, when the item is used in the OR, it's the implant charge sails straight through to the claim. And ultimately, this process is fixed. Our team, it's a great team. I've got myself. I'm heading up partnerships. Love partnerships. That's what I love to do. We've got Richard, who's leading product. He's a talented product leader. He has built and sold healthcare supply chain technology already and has 4 patents in point of use technology and RFID technology. Matt is our lead technical developer. He has about 2 decades in building SaaS products. And Joe is heading up our sales. He's run his own medical distribution company. He understands this market in and out. Now, if you look at our market size, the overall market is around $3.4 billion. Now, that's using an average hospital with 44 operating rooms and selling the software for $15,000 per operating room. Now, if you kind of cut that in half and look at just the outpatient market, which is where we're focused on, that goes to about $1.7 billion in total addressable market. And the unit economics of that look like a $330,000 contract with each individual facility. Now, if we look at our obtainable market, the partnerships I'm developing, it looks about $556 million. And so I'll tell you about those partnerships right now. So one of the partnerships that we're working with and integrating with, it basically represents 1/3 of all healthcare facilities in the US. They currently have contracts and sales relationships with 1/3 of all healthcare facilities, representing 74,000 operating rooms in the US. We are also partnering with the leading ambulatory surgical EHR solution, which is the growing market that we want to also get into. And they represent about 8,000 operating rooms in total. So that was the presentation, really. You know, our goal is to make sure that no one leaves money on the table and that everyone's happy. You know, the medical device companies win because they get their products in the OR and they get their POs. And then the providers win because they get their reimbursement. So we have existing company revenue and we are building our product with some funding. We're looking to raise a $2.5 million round later this year. I would love to talk to anyone who's interested in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Our third pitch today is EAM Vaccines. EAM's mission is to design and develop next-generation vaccines and therapeutics to usher in the golden age of preventative healthcare by protecting against infectious disease, cancer, central nervous system diseases, and animal diseases. EAM's next-generation technologies are built on self-amplifying technology and advanced targeting through our proprietary generator algorithm and delivery methods. Presenting for EAM is Ryan Thomas. Ryan has a diverse international business background, having lived and worked for several years in Latin America, Europe, and North America. His varied career includes work in finance, news and media, environmental services, philanthropy focused on people with special needs, and business consulting. Fluent in Spanish and studying Italian, Ryan also studied economics and finance at Regis University, attended Georgetown University's Fund for American Studies, and is a graduate of ASA Business School's Advanced Management Program in Media and Entertainment. Over to you, Ryan.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. While it feels through extended times before. 5 times of play, we've overcome the times of war. The consequences of these times have made us stronger, better. Scarcity and even the threat against human survival, our ingenuity, and the result are technologies that transform our lives. Maybe great and pessimism. There are others rising up to overcome the great challenge presented us. In these leaders are forged, disrupt technology. I'm Ryan Thomas, CEO at EAM. We're advancing disruptive new next generation vaccine and named in honor of the historic plague village in England. The villagers seriously quarantined to prevent the spread of disease, sacrificing their lives to save their neighbors. Today, heroic villagers to develop next generation knowledge for the prevention. We've seen the incredible speed at first generation vaccine deployed, potentially saving millions of lives. First generation vaccines only targeted one antigen, the spike protein, and have shown that manufacturing is slow and sub-zero storage make getting these vaccines of the most vulnerable a real challenge. At EAM, we've leveraged proprietary algorithms sequences of the virus, identifying multiple high-value antigen targets on the virus, incorporating certain immune system markers to create vaccines that we believe will create universal coverage. Our proprietary self-amplifying technologies require 1/100th of the other vaccines, generate long-lasting protein expression, and are stable and capable of being much higher temperature for faster, lower cost production and the stability to distribute to hard. Our pipeline deploying our algorithm for COVID-19 and now includes work on influenza and cancer vaccines and therapeutics, with the intention to begin preclinical work on them next quarter. Our business strategy is to validate our COVID vaccines in clinical trials, seek a larger bio to regulatory approval. We've hired a global M&A firm to evaluate and secure partnerships, licensing or sale of our vaccines. At the time, EAM preclinical work on influenza and cancer, while investing in our bioinformatics division, incorporating into our vaccine design process. We have been advancing our dozens of COVID-19 vaccine trials, and in vitro trials, as well as immunization trials, and we begin challenging working with a clinical research organization for approval from the FDA to begin and anticipate beginning those trials as soon as Q4 of this year. Is advancing work. Dr. Wilf is EAM's founder scientific officer. Reese has been granted more than 80 patents, many related to vaccine technologies. He's a professor at the National Academy of Inventors. To say that Wilf is an inventor who happened to be a scientist. In addition to some researchers in the lab and myself, we've also built out our management with veterans who not only have strong scientific background, but leaders with the ability to advance EAM's mission and vision. So what's the opportunity? $1 million starting today to to our next milestones. Building out an in-house artificial advancement of proprietary LNPs to use in our preclinical trials, investment in our bioinformatics division, further clinical trial preparation and coordination, and the launching of preclinical trials for cancer. Following phase, EAM will embark on a Series A round to fully fund trial work, influenza cancer vaccines, therapeutics through preclinical trials. Who are interested in this and supporting the advancement of EAM's vision to bring next generation work. Use to continue to follow EAM and receive letter. I've listed my email address and look forward to talking with those of you who are interested. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. The final pitch of the first IRP session is from H2O Biosciences. H2O is a computational biotechnology company founded in September 2020, based on a novel molecular physics model designed to significantly improve the accuracy of molecular scale predictions. H2O aims to change the way drugs are designed and optimized, bringing better drugs to market, lowering the cost of optimization, and to make it possible to design drugs for difficult to target proteins. Presenting for H2O is Dr. Anthony Faish. Dr. Anthony Faish holds 2 undergraduate degrees from the University of Waterloo, as well as a master's degree in microbiology and immunology and a PhD in bioinformatics from UBC. Anthony started his science career as a scientific co-founder officer at Zymeworks before working for companies such as Fabric Genomics and Tenaya Therapeutics in the Bay Area and New York. His experience pairs over 20 years of professional experience as a programmer with a deep background in genomics, biochemistry, and data analysis, as well as a decade of management and startup experience. Over to you, Anthony.
Thank you very much, William. So thanks for the introduction. As William pointed out, we were founded in 2020 and we are based in Vancouver. So 6 minutes isn't a lot of time, so I'll give you a quick whirlwind tour of the company. And afterwards, if you'd like to join us in our booth, I'm more than happy to go over in greater detail what we have to show today. So the premise of the company is that it's possible to make it easier, more efficient to design drugs, which really focuses on getting more drugs through clinical trials to the clinic. So the solution that we have to this problem is that we're looking at the tools that are used to design and optimize molecules. The state of the art is relatively well established with most of the technology coming from the 1970s. We felt it was time for an update to that basic technology. So the plan that we have is to build a new tool set, which we've done, and that will allow us to better predict how drugs bind, thus making it the process of optimization easier. Unlike most other competitors that in the drug design space, we're not looking at the drug scaffold design. We're looking more at the optimization process, which puts us in a class of our own. As far as I'm aware, there's not other companies who are working in the optimization space because it requires high accuracy for the molecular modeling platforms that are used, which is the only alternative to current process, which is 2 to 3 years or more spent in the wet lab optimizing molecules by trial and error. The competition for us comes in 3 main components. There are molecular modeling technologies that exist already. Those are generally based on the 1970s technologies. The problem is that the fundamental equations used behind everything there are out of date and were designed for computers in the 1970s and 80s. We believe that there's a massive opportunity to upgrade. These generally are very fast tools. They work relatively efficiently, but they don't provide the level of accuracy required. On the other side, we also have quantum mechanics-based tools, which are very accurate, but unfortunately don't scale to the size of problems required for drug optimization. The third set that we see a lot of is AI-based tools. And while they do generate a lot of fantastic data, they are also tethered by the amount of data that they have available to them and the training sets required in order to build the technologies that they have, which limits the directions that those technologies can be taken. So we believe that we'll have 3 major competitive advantages. The first is that we'll spend less time optimizing drugs. We believe we can shave potentially 2 or more years off of the time it takes to get a drug through the drug optimization process. We believe that our more accurate predictions, which include stuff like pH and solvent effect and better accounting for electrostatics, will allow our predictions to be better than the competitors. And that will allow us to hone in on the best molecules, which will reduce the amount of time it takes to optimize drugs, and certainly the amount of time it takes for chemical synthesis and testing. The other opportunity that we have is that it allows us to work on a broader range of problems because we're not limited by the training sets which are required for AI software solutions. In case you're wondering if we do have any technology that's current and working, the answer is yes, we do. This is one of our early validation slides from February. So in comparison to the general amber force field, which is one of the major competitors out there in academic process, we're able to show that our tools can provide at least comparable examples even prior to many of our optimization and validation and parameterization steps. So we do have early data which we can share and demonstrate that we're on the right track. The team itself is relatively small still. There's only 5 of us full-time. However, we do have 3 open positions. We are looking to add a new director of sales and marketing, as well as a scientist working on the parameterization side and software engineering. And that would be in addition to our team. My co-founder, Alex Shinkarenko, has past experience in founding companies in Europe. And we have brought on already 3 fantastic staff members. I can't speak highly enough about them, but if you come to our booth, I can tell you a little bit more about their backgrounds. And of course, because we have now set up our board, we do have some management we can add to the list as well. Our business model, just in a nutshell, comes in 2 parts. In the beginning, we have a platform that we can use to work on drug optimization problems, which are relatively conventional, understanding what our clients require. We believe we can handle most of what comes our way with our MVP, which we expect to have done towards the end of the summer, early Q3. That doesn't require any FDA approval. That's simply just a matter of working on contracts that we believe our clients require assistance with. In the longer term, however, we believe that we have a platform that will allow us to work on much more complicated problems and work on designing molecules for ourselves and to become eventually a pharmaceutical company as well. Just to sum up as well, we are currently looking for funding. We have already raised about 110% of our original $1 million goal, the US. That was completed in December 2021. However, we do have a small oversubscription round that is currently open and expected to end on March 31st. So if you're interested, there's still some room available left in that. The use of our funds is relatively clear. We're taking our prototype to the MVP level, which, as I mentioned, we expect to have done towards the end of summer. And we also require a few more technical positions and a business role to be filled as well. The fund that we've raised will bring us into 2024, which is ample room for us to begin bringing in revenue as well. And on top of that, we've also had the opportunity to work with IRAP, and we'll be completing SHRED claims as well, so that the funds should stretch even further. For BC investors, we do also still have EBC tax credits as well, which we can discuss as well. So with the last couple of seconds, if you'd like to learn more about what we're up to or our technology, please come find us in our booth and we'd be happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. So that concludes the first session of this morning's IRP presentations. Again, thank you, Matt, Peter, Ryan, and Anthony for your great presentations. And for those interested in learning more about the companies you heard about, please reach out to Matt, Peter, Ryan, or Anthony at the contact information provided, or visit them at their exhibitor booths within the Accelevance platform. So to close this session off, I'll turn it back over to Wendy.
Thanks, William, and congratulations to all the companies on their excellent pitches. Apricel Biotechnology, Inc., Oric Surgical, Vaccines and Immunotherapeutics Limited, and H2O. A reminder to check out our digital company guide. The LSBC team has put together fantastic summaries of the presenting companies, which is a great resource both during the conference, but also as a follow-up to the conference. And as William mentioned, we encourage you to reach out to the presenting companies and their teams through this platform by visiting their booths, who can answer any questions you had through the presentations. Our next session is going to feature our second group of companies who've participated in the Life Sciences BC Investor Readiness Program. That session is scheduled to start at 10:30 PST, which is in approximately 20 minutes. So you have time for a little bit of a break, and we will see you back here in 20 minutes. Thanks, everyone.